And we're rolling. First episode of the Move with Motus podcast, or I guess episode 0.
Yeah, excited to get into it. So what's going on, John?
Not much. You're getting busier.
I love it. I'm so happy. Yeah, it's picking up. I mean, Naples is super seasonal, as we know. We're in the heart of season, and the traffic down has been crazy. I even heard that we have like 950 people a day are moving to Naples, not just like Southwest Florida, but to Naples.
Well, I mean, it's just obvious. Like, I look around all day, and it's just beautiful here.
Yeah.
And I keep telling my parents, I don't know why you guys live up there.
Yeah.
They live in Massachusetts in the winter.
Now that
it's just so nice.
Everyone's like, okay, I can work via Zoom now. Okay, so what's the point of being in the cold?
Well, especially if you look at like Collier Boulevard itself. I was just driving down coming here, and it's just exploding.
Yeah.
Like there's new developments, there's new shopping centers popping up every single day. Your house value is probably going to go up at least double.
Yeah, it already has actually.
Yeah.
I looked it up, I was excited. Yeah, they're building a second Mercado over on Immokalee and Collier.
An actual Mercado?
Well, it's going to be like the same idea, not call it the Mercado. I forget what the name of it is, but it's going to be, outdoor shopping, dining kind of thing.
Is it the same company?
I don't think so. I'm not totally sure, but it's a different name.
Yeah.
But yeah, very excited.
So I guess we might as well talk about how we got into this field, how we know each other, what this podcast can be all about.
Sure.
So you told me an interesting story about how you got into physical therapy. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into that.
Well, I fell down an elevator shaft.
As you do.
As you do. So, and if you talk to most physical therapists, there's probably some sort of physical ailment or trauma in their background, and they went to physical therapy themselves, and they're like, wait, you just get to like hang out with people in the gym and like make them better? That's awesome. So a lot of physical therapists kind of take this similar route. So for me, I was in my 20s, and I moved out to California. This was back when it was hard to find work in California, after like sort of the internet bubble had burst.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get jobs, and I was young. I didn't really have that much experience, but I couldn't even get a job at like Starbucks. So I was on Craigslist. That was the thing back in the day, Craigslist. And
what were you doing for money at the time? Just
I had
a little bit in your bank account, just surviving?
Yeah, so prior to that, I was living in Boston, bartending. I had a good bar gig. I just saved a bunch of money, so I had like a bit of a cushion to ride off of.
Gotcha.
But it was dwindling fast, so I was getting a little desperate, and the Starbucks wouldn't hire me. And I even had Starbucks experience, actually. I was a barista at one point. So I took a construction job.
Yeah.
I had very little construction experience. So I was into the job about 2 weeks, and I was like the guy just doing all the grunt work. Move that door over there, sweep this. The foreman is just like kind of made me do all the bad work. So anyways, at one point I was up on the 4th floor of it's actually a $13 million home, and they were putting an elevator shaft or elevator in the house. And I was measuring the framework around what would be the elevator shaft door, and somehow I managed to fall in. I fell 4 floors. I fell through some wood on the way down. On the 2nd floor, there was a piece of plywood laid across, and that's where we were keeping our tools and stuff. So I fell through that, and then landed on my big butt, which probably saved my life too, is the big glutes. Kind of like a side fetal position, one hand stretched out to brace my fall. I fractured the top left pelvis. I fractured my left hand. That's why it still makes all those fun sounds.
Do that again? Oh, that's a good time.
Yeah. And then L1, vertebrae in my back. And so.
No, was that painful, that initial landing, or you don't even remember any of it?
No, I remember it. It was super painful.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is funny because I've had other painful experiences where I didn't feel anything. Sometimes the nervous system like shut down.
Right.
But no, I felt this one, and it was horrible. I guess it's hard to say because I was a little bit amnesic afterwards for about 3 hours. I knew I lived in California, but I didn't know what city. I knew I had a girlfriend. I didn't know her name. I was like, I think she's got blonde hair, but I wasn't so sure. So that persisted for a good 3 hours, and slowly my memory came back. It was kind of wild.
Now, is that pretty scary for you, just like not knowing those things, and people asking you as if you should, or was that?
It's like getting Novocaine. Your tongue goes numb at the dentist. Like there's just nothingness. It's such a weird feeling. Like you feel like you're gonna bite your tongue. It's kind of like that, but in the brain. It's so strange. Yeah, it's a very unique experience.
It's scary. Don't go through.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. But I think I was more concerned with, will I walk again?
Right.
In fact, that was the first thing. Like the paramedic, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna walk again." He's like, "I don't know." But yeah,
So hopeful.
So this is in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever been there, it's super hilly. So I'm on this gurney, kind of strapped in. We're going up and down these hills. I'm sliding around, and like all these unstable fractures are just, I don't know they're grinding. That was almost the worst part of it, actually. It was so painful, that ride. So anyways, I get to the hospital. The nurses told me they thought I was going to be dead on arrival when they saw my chart coming in. So anyways, I go to San Francisco General. I'm in it was like horrible healthcare, actually. I mean, the hospital was super overrun. It's a big homeless population in San Francisco, and it was just like every room was taken. So I was in like a gurney in like a hallway for most of my stay there. Anyways, I told them, I'm pretty sure I broke my wrist. My wrist looked like a big whale. So they did like a full body MRI, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't break your wrist. You broke your pelvis, but you're lucky. It's the non-lobe bearing part of your pelvis." So they gave me a cane.
What specifically, since we're
the iliac crest.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so where glute medius attaches basically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so they gave me a prescription for Vicodin and a cane, and I was out 24 hours later, no instruction. So I went home like a good patient, took Vicodin, and laid in bed, rested like you're supposedly supposed to do, and had this like giant. I know, right? This giant.
It's painful to hear.
Yeah, exactly. No instruction whatsoever. Just good luck. You didn't die. Here's cane and drugs.
Oh.
Yeah. Has huge hematoma on my butt. Like I looked like a cow. It was this big black blood stain like on my butt.
I'm assuming sleeping on that side was like.
Yeah, I was in. I couldn't do it now. So I pretty much laid in bed for about a month and just got stiff, and I was in pain. I was taking Vicodin, and just nothing was getting better. I was getting worse. If anything, I was put on weight. I think I put on a total of 40 pounds.
Whoa.
Not in that month, but over sort of this stretch of this trauma. So I was miserable. So I went home to stay with my parents in Cape Cod. And so
shout out Cape Cod.
Yeah, Cape Cod, Falmouth. So I went and saw my family doc. And
also so weird that we're both from the same spot.
Totally random.
Completely random.
Did you ever go to Rue Bar by any chance?
The what bar?
Rue Bar. I used to bartend there years ago.
I don't think it exists anymore. In fact,
not in Falmouth. I think that one got sold. There's a couple others. Anyways, so I go see my family physician. I take the MRI to him, and I was like, "I'm pretty sure I broke my wrist," and they missed it. And he looks at it and he's like, "Yeah, you're right. You broke your wrist, and you also broke L1 in your back." And I was like, "Oh, great!" So he took new images, and luckily, and maybe it's because I just rested, didn't do anything, things like healed right.
Yeah.
So I got really lucky with that. And then I decided I need to go to physical therapy. So he wrote me a script. Because at that point, I was like depressed, fat. Like it was hard for me to get out of bed in the morning. It would just like lifting my leg up to get out of bed. It would take me like an hour. It would take me an hour to get out of bed.
Really?
I was in my 20s. And I didn't know what to do, right? Just like anybody who gets injured, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to physical therapy. And this was a clinic inside of a gym. Much like we have, right? So I think it's a great model. So I did like intense physical therapy. I was there like maybe 3 or 4 days a week, probably back then, for at least a few months, maybe even longer. It's a long time ago, it's hard to say. And then they transitioned me to go into the gym. I worked with a trainer for a few times, and then I just kept at it. I would go in there for like 3 hours a day. Like I knew everybody in there. And like 8 months later, I was in the best shape of my life. I had zero pain. I had like an 8-pack. I was like 19 again. It felt amazing. And I was like, this is amazing. What does this therapist feel like seeing me come in like fat, depressed, and in so much pain?
And then all of a sudden.
And now I'm like, I was ripped, way more ripped back then. And like super happy. Like I was like, that's what I have to do. I want to do that. So that's my story.
Yeah, and it's honestly, you hear a story like that, there's so much hopelessness, and it's very hard to get people out of that state.
Yes.
I saw this post on Instagram, this guy had lost all 4 of his limbs.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden he's sprinting on a track with blades on.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's like, all that is possible, but it takes the right mindset in order to do that. What was that for you like having that mindset, making those changes? Because that's not something everybody does. I've trained a lot of people who are in tough positions, and I know they can get out of it, but it takes a a strong mind to
I just,
pull it off.
I don't know. I mean, I just wanted my life back. I just feel like, I could have easily just rested, and I was on work comp, by the way. So I was getting paid to sit there and play video games and take Vicodin, right? Sounds like kind of fun, right? But no, I think I just entered depression.
Yeah.
And, that's the only time in my life I could say I was depressed. I'm a pretty happy person in general. I think that was probably the main driver. It's like, what is going on in my life? I'm miserable. I just wanted life back. I think that was the main drive.
So now that whole 8-month period, you weren't working at all. You were just focused on getting healthy again.
Probably towards the end of that 8-month period, I got a job bartending at Rhubarb. Yeah, and that was just doing like 1 or 2 days a week, and that was like, I felt like I was like reintroducing myself to society again. Because I was just kind of like a shut-in basically for a long time. Which is part of being Falmouth in the winter, kind of a shut-in.
Yeah, very true.
So I slowly kind of crept back, and I felt better and better, and I just like, this is it. This is what I have to do.
Yeah. And so from there, you started applying to PT schools, and then when?
Well, then I was like, I want to be a PT, and okay, Google, what's it take to be a PT? And it's like, oh, I have to take like 8 more classes just before I can even apply.
To go to PT
then I have to do like 100 observation hours and do, So I was like, that's what I want to do. So I actually went back to the same PT clinic, and I said, listen, I want to be a PT. Can I do some observation hours? They're like, yeah, sure, we'll do you one better. Thank you, Steve Brocklebank, by the way. And they hired me, and so I got my observation, and I actually got paid a little bit. So I was working kind of part-time there.
Yeah.
Just doing like front desk stuff, like answering phones and scheduling, sort of the paperwork part. So I got to learn sort of the business side of it too.
Yeah. Now I'm assuming they hired you because they saw your whole progression. They were like, yeah, this guy.
Well, they're like, you're here 3 hours a day. You might as well start paying you. I knew everybody there.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's it. But yeah, it'd be very easy, and this is like goes into pain science to like fall into that rabbit hole. I mean, you can like stub your toe wrong and freak out and think you broke your toe, and that's it. I gotta stop playing soccer or whatever. And it's very easy for the mind to sort of spiral, and then it's like you fixate on the problem and it gets worse.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a negative feedback loop.
Well, because you don't, like you said, you fixate on the problem. You don't fixate on the solution.
Right.
Because there is a solution.
Yeah.
I have yet to meet a biomechanical problem that I thought was unfixable.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I thought was between the solution and the issue was that person's mindset. Are they going to come in and do the extra work? Yeah. Are they going to come in and do what's needed and do what I'm asking them to do in the order that I'm asking them to do it in? Obviously, you probably see it all the time. Physical therapy is just...
Yeah. I used to work at a clinic, actually, that we took workers' comp. And that's a big problem in the workers' comp world, because you get a lot of people that are just way underpaid, and they don't want to be on a roof in Florida in the summer.
Yep.
They can collect a check and not be motivated to fix that little ankle sprain. You get these like ankle sprains that have been sitting there for like 2 years, and they're still coming to rehab, just doing minimal work. And and that's the problem with just our pay structure and everything. I mean, if you have a family and you got like 4 kids and you have to go to daycare, and that's through the roof, right, cost wise, and you're got like a minimal wage job and it's crap work, where's the motive to get better? Right? You can collect workers' comp, kids get to stay home instead of going to daycare, you actually have making money.
Yep.
So it's a broken system.
Yeah, I have family who's in that system, and it's just hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Yeah.
I wish I could just shake them out of it.
Yeah. As a physical therapist, it's terrible. It's like, this person clearly does not want to get better.
Yeah.
And then you have to like discharge them because it's called malingering. That's the term for it. But then they get another script. They come back, and you have to go through. It's just it's a pain in the butt. It's pretty disheartening, actually.
And now, is that part of the reason you do cash-based physical therapy, so you get to kind of make those decisions for yourself versus the system making them for you?
It's one of 100 reasons why I do cash-based, but that may be one of the biggest drivers. I mean, the insurance world is, I want, when I have a patient, I want myself and the patient to make a decision what to do with their health, not somebody sitting in some headquarters in Minnesota or wherever they are.
Yeah.
Because then you, as a therapist, you're getting calls like, hey, it's been 6 visits, things ready, the guy's ready to be discharged. Like, you never even met this person.
No idea.
Are you a physical therapist even? No. So yeah, it gets very frustrating.
And there's so many variables that they're not accounting for because they need to make money too.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a very interesting business. I've talked to a lot of physical therapists that are on that side, and then I've had you.
Yeah.
And it seems like this is the model that makes the most sense.
I think it's the way of the future for PT, to be honest.
Yeah.
as things get squeezed more and more, I think healthcare, at least in the physical therapy realm, is probably going to get worse and worse, because physical therapists now being forced to see 2, 3, sometimes 4 patients at once.
Yeah.
And then they're farming out the exercises to like a tech or an aide. And you know, I get a lot of the patients that went to sort of traditional PT. That didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
And I just wasted 24 visits and all those hours and all that time, and like I just did like straight leg raises.
Yep. When I see the approach, because I'm a personal trainer, I've worked in personal training / physical therapy spaces before, and worked alongside PTs. Don't get me wrong, all great people, but I just saw the treatment that they had to use as their approach, and it was very rudimentary. Yeah. And not very focused, and I watched you treat, and I'm like, this is a little more innovative, and clearly very focused on the problem, and a more holistic approach to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the problem when you get to the point where you have to see multiple patients. I've been in that position before. It's just really hard to get quality care. It's hard. I mean, there are some rock stars out there that can just multitask like crazy and can do it. So there's definitely a lot of great PTs out there that, I don't want to come off as like poo-pooing that whole system.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying anything bad about those therapists. I'm saying something about the system itself.
Yeah. But obviously, it's all about individual attention and customization. You can't just give out a protocol and say go do these 6 exercises. Yeah. And it rarely works. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get lucky every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another reason why I do this.
There you go.
Okay. So enough about me. How about you?
So yeah, I mean, I'm a personal trainer now. Doing it on my own, doing it for Motus at this point after our partnership, and it really just started like my fascination with fitness and health just sort of started with, I don't know, just being a kid, just like looking at good athletes and great athletes and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those guys and Lou Ferrigno, and just being like, how do I do that? Like, how do you get to that point? And so it was just always like a fascination with me. It was always a fascination with like movement and the human body and just like aesthetics. And that's kind of what like got me into it initially, just that sort of interest. And then I started going to this gym when I was playing tennis in high school when I was living in Falmouth. And there was this kid who said, hey man, like you're a good athlete, like, I think you should go to this gym. This guy Jeff can really help you out. So I went to this gym. It was called FAST. It was Falmouth Area Sports Training. And this guy Jeff was this very interesting character, but he was very focused on like the science of exercise, and I had never seen that before. I just like, I would do a training camp for hockey, and the guy would just be like, all right, do 10, a minute of planks and then 10 crunches or whatever. It was all just kind of nonsense. And this guy like had a pathway. He had a whole system. I was like, okay, well this is kind of cool. So I trained with him for a little bit, just like working out. I started getting better at tennis. I started getting more athletic. I was getting faster. Like I was never really a fast kid, but all of a sudden he like taught me how to sprint. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could learn how to run. I thought you just ran. So he taught me these things, and I just got really fascinated with it. So my senior year of high school, I decided, I was like, all right, I'm going to do exercise science. Like that's my pathway. And then I went to Florida Gulf Coast, toured there, and they said, hey, we have a resort-style pool on campus. I was like, I'll go here. And
wait, where's that pool?
It's in the Sobe, South Village.
Oh, I never saw that. I went to FGCU too. I just thought they had that one outdoor pool. I never saw it. The PT department is like, like you're confined. Like I didn't like meet anybody else outside of PT school.
No, you probably didn't live on campus, right?
No.
Yeah, on campus in South Village. It's probably a newer addition too, because like the 2 dorms that I lived in, like one of them was like 2 years old, and I think they probably built that pool around then. But it was in the South Village area, so if you didn't live on campus, you probably never really got to see it. Is it
pretty cool?
It was awesome. Yeah.
All right, sorry, continue.
But yeah, I was like, all right, I'll go to the Florida Gulf Coast. They have an exercise science program. So yeah, I ended up interning at that gym my senior year summer going into college, and that was a good experience. Unfortunately, he and I's relationship sort of broke down after that, but it was like, 2 years doing all the general ed stuff, and my junior year when we actually got into like the exercise science program, that was when I was like, okay, like this is cool, learning about movement, learning about the muscles, how everything works. And then our senior year we did 2 internships. I did one at a place in Naples. This was like an athletic facility, and I thought that's what I wanted to go into. I thought I wanted to go into athletics and stuff like that, training athletes. So both of my internships were kind of focused on that. And even my second internship was in Nashville, this place called D1 Training. They're a big chain now. Again, very athlete focused, but it was also general population, like group classes. And I was like, okay, I'll do like group training. But then my first job, I was just kind of looking for anything. I was like, you know what, I'm not this kind of kid who's going to be real picky. I just need a job. So right as I graduated, I moved to Vermont and worked at this place. I won't say their name because I'm probably going to bash them at some point throughout this podcast, but I worked at this place in Vermont. It was a physical therapy and performance training site, and it was all personal training, almost all personal training, very little group training. And so they just started giving me clients, and I was doing the one-on-one stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, like I'm much better in the one-on-one setting. Mm-hmm. But I can do the group stuff, and I still do it now with my speed groups. But I was like, I'm much better in this one-on-one environment. And I was getting like probably 50% athletes, 50%, just normal individuals. Mm-hmm. And I would get these like hard biomechanical problems to solve. Like somebody would come with a bad shoulder, bad positioning, bad posture, bad hip, whatever the case might have been. And I would think so hard about all these things, and it was such a creative process that I was like, oh, this is like my path. Like, let me solve really hard biomechanical problems with good movement and good function and good mobility. And I was like, that's how I should be approaching it. So when I came down to Florida, quit my job, started this on my own, that was my whole thing. I was like, I can get you out of pain through movement. And I have to admit, I've been pretty successful at it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So just through like looking at the quality of movement, you're correcting it and finding that you can eliminate pain.
Yeah, to be honest, you get to a point where you see so many of the same problem, mm-hmm. where you can look at a person, watch them walk for about 5 steps and be like, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like when I go to the mall, I have to like put on blinders. It's like,
it's tough. It's tough. Oh, when I go to the gym, I got to put on blinders and work at that gym.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always that fine line too, where you're like, oh, don't do that. Don't put that behind your neck. Like, no, oh. But you can't just go up and say that.
No. And I thought that was the pathway for like personal trainers, was to, okay, let's go up to people and be like, hey, here's a better way to do that. No. You want to go in there, treat your clients well, train them well, use good methodologies, and people are going to come up to you.
Right.
They'll get interested. They'll be like, what's this guy all about? But if you go up there and criticize people and be like, hey, you suck at that exercise, let me show you how to do it better.
That doesn't work.
Turns out that doesn't work very well.
Yeah, people have to be receptive, and that's not the way to go about it.
Definitely not the way to go about it. But yeah, I don't really have a crazy story, but I do love this field. I think this field is one of the most important fields that currently exists, right? The field of health and fitness and nutrition. And it's being undervalued dramatically. Like, look at what a physical therapist and a personal trainer can make. I mean, the cap's like, if you're making $100,000 as a physical therapist, you're doing pretty good. Mm-hmm. If you're making $100,000 as a personal trainer, you're crushing it. Like, you're killing it. And that's not a high bar.
Yeah.
I mean, in the financial industry, in the real estate industry, and the technology industry, like, the bar's a lot higher. Mm-hmm. And they're attracting the people that we would like to have on our team, because these problems are hard to solve. Like, you look at some of the evals you were doing today, and it was like these people come in with these very complex biomechanical problems, and the human body is such an interesting thing. It's so complex. Mm-hmm. We need the smartest people, and $50K a year is not going to attract them.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of this goes back to the system being sort of reactive as opposed to proactive, and I think that's also the way of the future. I mean, a lot of people are choosing to go out of pocket and say, I care about my health. That's why they're getting these concierge physicians are going to see functional med docs, and they're getting proactive about their health. That's the way it has to be. And, when the insurance companies learn that their reimbursement rates will actually go down if they can be proactive, then things might change. But right now it's, okay, he's broken, now I have to fix him from the ground up, where it should be the other way around.
Yeah. And I still think not enough people are investing in their health, so we're still seeing a giant untapped market, mm-hmm. that just needs to be tapped into through decreased cost of services that are leveraged somehow very efficiently and effectively.
Right.
Like, if you can go on Spotify now and get unlimited music for $10 a month, where before you had to buy 10 CDs every single month, like, clearly there's something there for the music industry model. We need something similar for ours.
Right.
And it's up to somebody to create it.
Let's do it.
But yeah, I think that's it for episode 0 as far as our background's concerned.
Okay, sounds good. Shall we wrap it up?
Yep.
Okay, John, well, it was great talking to you. And I'll see you next week.
See you next week.